wanted to ask you first, how long have you had this TV show? Because that's interesting. It's not an everyday thing that you talk to people that have their own TV show.
Well, I started the first version of it in 2017, and then my team and I, we revamped it and revised it in 2018, and it was all on, it was on Facebook and then in 2019 now no, 2020. Sorry. We signed on with E360 TV and started doing it live. So, I mean, and my background was in advertising and television sales. So I've always sort of been around TV, but launching it has really, I didn't know I was going to be hosting a TV show when I made my transition and my reinvention. But, I learned quickly that I really need to have my own TV show. I need to create my own platform. So we've been on there for almost 2 years. So since 2017, so almost 5 years. That's kind of hard to believe when I say that, but yeah.
And do you still think that? Do you believe, like, even today with everything that's going on as far as like online, do you feel that that television show really propelled you, or do you feel like, given the opportunity, you could have done it in any platform?
Well, I really think it's up to the individual on how, want to perceive it. What I believe and I know has happened for me is a lot of things, amazing success and opportunities I know are 100% direct result from having that television show. Now, could I have done it on other platforms, in other ways, other social media? Probably, but I'm a long form girl, and I'm a background in over the air broadcasting, and so this was that's the playground I wanted to be in. That's where I felt like I was at home, and I'm speaking to an older audience, so they're on those platforms too. They're seeking information and content that way. So I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways you can skin a cat, but this was the platform that worked for me.
You seem genuinely and sincerely in love with what you do, and it's really hard. It's really hard to see that from people, only because a lot of times there's always like a facade, right? Especially like with the interwebs, social media, like everything's really a facade. Right. You don't really know, I mean, I can't believe what filters do nowadays. Like it blows my mind. So like from a perception standpoint, like it's hard to come by, and it's definitely rare. And so when I look through your stuff and I didn't even have to talk to you. I can genuinely assume, based on my intuition, that you really do love what you do, and it's your purpose, and it's the thing that you were put on this earth to do, which is such a blessing, to be able to figure that out and then do it well and then succeed in it, and then be able to spread that joy and, those lessons amongst, communities and, whatever, amongst people. So how long did it take you to determine, like, were you always self-aware?
Oh gosh, no.
Like, did you just already know? Like,
No.
Let's talk about that, because it's one of the things that I believe is truly underrated, is understanding what self-awareness is and then how to be able to identify maybe traits, habits, attributes, personality, whatever the case may be, whatever the formula is, to be able to dive deep into, hey, is there a formula to be able to figure out, like, what am I good at? Like, what am I supposed to do? Because I don't think everybody should be. I think if you're miserable at what you're doing, and that could be miserable making millions of dollars a year for yourself or somebody else, or that could be miserable, being broke. Like, I don't think it has any like monetary means attached to it. I just want to know, like, how do you find purpose? How do you find what you're supposed to do in life? And is there a step-by-step kind of tutorial that you wouldn't mind sharing? Because this would be wonderful.
I'm so happy you asked, and yes. So, no, I was not always self-aware. Excuse me if I have to clear my throat a little bit. It's residual. So yes, there is a formula. No, I wasn't always self-aware. What I had to discover, Mo, was the journey to awakening, for lack of a better word.
Mm.
And when I had the realization that everything that has happened to me in my entire life and the conditions of my entire life is a direct result of myself and the way I'm thinking, the way I'm feeling, the way I'm speaking, and the way I'm living it. And so that was an illuminating moment, as you can imagine. But once I took ownership of it, like, wait a minute, I did this. I'm the one responsible for the condition of my life. And I don't want this anymore. I want to live an extraordinary life, and I'm going to do everything that I can to do that. Then I started the path to continuing the awakening, the self-discovery, what really matters, what's important to me, what do I want my today to be like, since it's all I have is today. And I started asking myself a lot of questions. So when you say, is there a process, is there a formula for it? There indeed is. And it's through the process of asking yourself the right questions. And there are a lot of those questions. And defining what truly brings meaning to your life. Because it's my belief that your purpose comes from identifying what brings meaning to your life. If you can figure out what that is, that will drive you and lead you to what your purpose is. So my purpose and my awakening that happened to me about 10 years ago was, I mean, if you saw my life 10 years ago, you wouldn't believe who I was back then and who I am today. It's been an evolution and a journey to find it, but I've been seeking. I've been a seeker of information. I've been a seeker of clarity. And what I've learned along the way has ebbed and flowed and, weaved in and out. And it's like, Michelangelo sculpting David. He didn't just like chink on the marble and then there he was. He knew something was under there.
Absolutely.
But he had to sculpt it to find, to have it become, right? That's sort of how I feel this journey has been for me and continues to be for me, by the way. I'm constantly evolving and changing, as we all are. So it's asking yourself the right questions. And I take my clients, whether it's privately or in group settings, I've done online programs, I've done challenges to get them to that clarity. You are a multifaceted diamond, and you should be illuminating all, all of that brilliance in everything that you do.
Right.
But we have to figure out what that is. And so what is that list of things that lights you up, brings you joy, you love doing? When you're doing them, time loses all meaning. What are the things that people come to you for and ask you time and time again for help and support with? And what are you really good at? What are you good at? What do you love to do? And what could you do all day, every day, that even if you didn't get paid for it, you do it? We have to figure that out. It's so much fun having people have their awakening moments in what I do, which is why I love doing what I do. I mean, I just hung up with a client and she was so lit up, so on fire, couldn't wait to get off the call so she could go get into action. Like, that is the best feeling in the world. So you got to find that thing or those things that lights you up that way. And nothing lights me up more than seeing somebody in inspired action. I love it. I love it. So.
What a beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. You mentioned something that really stuck out to me. You said one of the factors was, what is the one thing, or what are the things that the people closest to you or people that are around you constantly go to you for? Like, what is that thing that you're good at? That is you're almost, I feel like, because I went through this myself, and it's like you're almost oblivious to it unless you're truly, truly aware of what's happening at that current time. But it's really difficult to be able to, almost step outside of yourself and look inwardly and try to see yourself like outside of yourself. I know that sounds really confusing, but like to be able to step back and say, huh, I wonder, like, what are the things that I enjoy? What are the things that I am good at? I also think a big part of that is I don't it's difficult to be able to determine those things, at least in my experience, until you've actually built up some experience, some life experience. You know, like I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure there's always the, that one variable, right? That can always determine something at an early age. And there are those like geniuses and empaths and very intuitive young adults that are able to have the blessing of being able to identify things at an early age. But I think for the most of us, like, I can't imagine being 20 years old and like knowing my purpose. I can't imagine that, because looking back, 20 years ago, I'm like, man, I was just an idiot. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing, let alone having any kind of intuition towards myself and any kind of awareness. So like, that's a big thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with, hey, we gotta go through life. We gotta put a little skin in the game. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that? Is there like a different strategy that maybe can avoid a lot of that pain?
Here's what.
Or do you just have to go through
I think
pain?
it's my belief that, of course, most people don't have their life figured out in their 20s. I'm the mother of twins. I have a son and a daughter, and they're both 24 years old. And they're...
Wow, we shared that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I have twins. They're not 24, but I have twins, yeah.
And they're still figuring it out. And they're both at different, they're launched.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed, truly blessed. But they're still figuring it out. And of course they should be. And my son's, graduated, went to work for a large corporation, knew within the first few months that was not the path he was meant to take. He's far too creative. And he said, Mom, I walk in there and I get off the elevator, and I feel like I stepped through the door, and I feel like I want to die. And I said, then get out of there. That is not your place. Go figure it out. And so here's what I believe about gifts, that your gifts are the things that people come to you for. They come to you easily. They're not a struggle. They're not hard. You might be a really good organizer, you might be really handy, or you might be a brilliant writer, or many of the other things. Your gifts come to you easily. Your wisdom takes time. Figuring that out, discovering what's important to you, what you value, how you want to use your life, what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment, that takes time. Because we live in this world where we are getting, 60 to 70,000 impressions on us every single day that there's something wrong with you, and you need this thing in order to be whole or better or whatever, improved. And the world around us is trying to make us feel like we're less than. So it's imperative, and this is what worked for me, it's imperative that you go within through meditation, through journaling, through, walks in nature, through being around people and surrounding yourself with people who are interested in going down this journey and this path with you, that could illuminate things for you or help you ask questions. There's a lot of different ways, Mo, to do it, but to be inquisitive. That's why I'm so focused in my work. I don't know what you've checked out on me about language. language, 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 and asking the questions. We've got to be curious about the world around us, but most importantly, about ourselves, you know, because the more we inquire and dig and learn and expand and grow and then figure out, oh my God, this is never going to stop. There's no ceiling here. This is going to keep happening to me. I'm going to keep expanding. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep learning. The more understanding and wisdom we have around that, the more confidence, kindness, and forgiveness we show ourselves in our lives. Like, hey, I'm a work of art, but I'm a work in progress at the same time. And so is everybody else. And the more kindness and compassion we can show to ourselves in that way, that's how much we give to the rest of the world. Because that grows the unconditional self-love muscle. And when you can love yourself unconditionally, no matter what, despite how you may or may not show up in the world that day, some days you're going to be better than others. But if at the end of the day you can love and forgive yourself unconditionally, you're going to show up in the world that way. And it is my belief that is the path to world peace, unconditional self-love, because that's what's going to spread to other people. So, and that comes with wisdom. And I guess that comes with time. So I sort of feel like the generation, and how old are your twins, by the way, if you don't mind sharing?
They're 7, but I also have a 22-year-old, and they're
Okay,
all
I love it.
girls.
So it's my belief also that the generations that are coming into the world right now, and your 7-year-old twins are a perfect example of it. I think my 24-year-old twins are, and your daughter too. They're kind of at the beginning stage of it, are coming into this world more enlightened and awakened and curious. It's been my experience that they care more about the planet. They care more about getting, and I know there's a lot of social media stigma out there, but they care more about being themselves and being out in the world and being seen. And they're coming in a little more awakened than, say, my generation, right? So they're hopefully inquiring more and maybe asking these questions sooner than maybe your generation, our generation did. At least that's been my experience so far observing.
That would honestly be the hope, because you know, whether you want to call it a stigma or not, the issue is with social media and with the world it is today is that, it's like I call them keyboard warriors, right? So you're always going to have this like mob mentality, a group of people that, is coming from, because I used to get really upset and I used to get really angry. If my daughter was insulted by people that she doesn't even really know, and they're just on social media and they're on her Instagram, and I'm like, why are you even following them? Like, why are they following? So you go into this whole thing, and then, as I got older, I started becoming more empathetic, and I'm like, you know what? These people are just, what? Maybe they're insecure. Maybe we don't know their story. Can't be judgmental, but at the same time, you can't let it affect, your children. So like I always preach that it all happens in the home. So you have to bulletproof your children. You have to allow them to speak for themselves and be creative and be who they are. And at the same time, prepare them for what society may throw at them. Because yes, they have more of an inclination to be able to become more of who they are because they're getting practice, right? They get like, I never had the opportunity of holding a phone and recording myself and getting instant feedback.
Right.
Never. That's crazy. Like, I still get nervous, and I've been doing it for a while. There's certain times I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, is this going to affect, how people think? And I'm like, wait a second, I don't really care.
Yeah.
So here we go. But, you still have those moments. So, and it's a big concern right now with like I don't want to get into this big topic, but with like cancel culture and whatever you want to call that, online shaming or cyberbullying or whatever the case may be, and I think that has a lot to do with the other side of social media, which is in my opinion, it's like the dark side of social media. But I'm like, there's always going to be a dark and a light. Like, what side do you want to be on? You know. So I had a couple questions for you about purpose and mindset in particular by leveraging, like you were saying, journaling. So I have been a big advocate of like a grateful log for over a decade. The thing that I've always struggled with is the authenticity behind it. It wasn't until I started practicing it with my kids, with my twins, every night, part of our, me tucking them in their nightly routine is just one thing that they're grateful for that day. And it wasn't until like I realized, like, wait a minute, like what I'm grateful for and I'm trying to be grateful for, and the things that I'm trying to project, the reason why they feel so, inauthentic and disingenuous is because like I'm trying to create something that isn't there, and I don't feel like I'm connecting to it. But when you ask like children, like, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful that I got to meet a new friend today. Like, that's sincere. Like that's real. And it was like, oh, I'm overthinking this. But at the same time, Diane, like how can I use that to progress forward? How can I use journaling? How can people use journaling to, let's say they're just in the worst circumstance and they can't really find anything. Like, yeah, I'm grateful that I'm alive. Sure. I'm grateful that I have running water. Okay. I'm grateful that there's a roof over my head. Fine. But past that, I'm miserable, hypothetically speaking. So how do you get out of that frame of mind and then also believe it?
It took me a while because my days were dark, and I had a moment that almost took me out in my life. So I definitely,
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my journey, Mo, was from suicide attempt to where I am now. So this is really good for your audience to hear this.
Yeah. What was the timeline? Like suicide attempt to
June 2011.
Transformation.
So 10 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's when I say, if you would have seen my life a decade ago versus my life now, this is what I want to convey to the audience. As dark as your days may seem, I love the law of polarity. As bad as it is on one end of the spectrum, I promise you on the other side is so freaking extraordinary. Everything that's happening in your life to you is happening for you. It doesn't seem like a gift. Being broke, losing your job, getting divorced, having cancer, a myriad of things that could be happening. You have to find the gift in it. You have to. It is your responsibility to do that because it is there showing up to teach you something. Yo, look over here. You're not paying attention to this. Something's going on. I'm screaming in your ear to turn right and you're going left. Like there's something there's something in there for you. So, number one, you got to be grateful for the breath that's in your lungs and that you have today. 153,000 people didn't wake up. We did. How lucky are you to be alive that you have today to make a change in your life? It's not down there. It's in the micro decisions, moment by moment decisions that you make. So how do you do, and I'll get to the journaling in a second. I just want to wake people up who are suffering, because I know how much suffering is going on out there. I know firsthand, because it is a passion of mine and a commitment of mine, that you have to be able to say, I know. I don't know when, I don't know where, and I don't know how, but I do know at some point I will understand why this is happening in my life right now. I will understand why I'm in all this pain. I will understand what it is. And it's my promise and commitment to myself to do my best to make the changes I need to make to create the life, not only that I want, that is freaking waiting for me. It's waiting for me to step up into it. Because I believe, Mo, that on law of polarity, if the pain is only this small, the gain is only this small. I just believe that. If you're living in many ways like I was in this ho-hum existence, to the outside world, my life looks really great. If they had any idea what was going on inside, no one would believe it. So I'm just going to keep up this front. I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to keep it up until it almost took me down, right? So don't let it get to the point where it's where I was to get on that other side. Try and recognize it, because that ho-hum numbness is just going to wear away at you, wear away at you, wear away at you. So how I used journaling in the beginning was a place to dump. Like, I don't know.
Was that like your first step, or one of the first steps to moving away from? Yeah.
The very first step is I started getting really curious. So I started listening to podcasts, reading books, and started a meditation practice. And I will tell you, the meditation is the number one thing that changed my life. It opened up so much. And then with the
love your talk on that too, if you have a little bit of time, because I'm a big advocate.
Happy to talk about that. And then journaling was the next step that followed it. I would, and then other things, again, continue. I was literally like a sponge. I could not get enough information. I could not get enough about personal development and spiritual awakening and self-help and literally having this awakening, like there is way more going on here than meets the eye. I've been living down here with my head down in the sand for so long, thinking this is the way life is supposed to be, because this is what society and the media kind of led me to think was the path, and it was so unfulfilling. And now I had an amazing career. I literally had it all the trappings, all the material things. I was so unfulfilled on the inside. My marriage was terrible. There was just a lot going on, and it kept, the knocking downs I took were so much that it led to that bathroom moment. And that bathroom moment I bless all the time, because it changed my life. I literally had the pills in my hand and my arm got chopped, and a voice screamed in my ear, which I know was my mother. It was saying, "You are not ending your life this way, Diane. Go get help so you can tell your story and you can help others." And I just went, "Oh, well, you better show me the way, because I don't know how. I don't know what to do." And the next day I reached out for help. I called a therapist.
Did your kids have anything to do with your decision? I'm assuming they did, but at the moment, was it like, wait a minute? Like, did that also cross your mind? 'Cause I always feel like when I'm at my lowest, my kids are like the first thing that pop in my head. Like, wait a minute, like, dude, you can't be selfish right now.
Yeah, well, it was not premeditated on my part. It was a snapping moment. And when when people who do it and actually go through with it, imagine the level of pain that they're going through. If they could only have gotten help and support.
I can feel how intense it was.
Yeah,
for you.
It was, and which is why a lot of the work that I do and so committed to is getting you before you're diagnosed. It's happening. It's going on. Yeah. You're numbing yourself. You're avoiding. You're doing all of these things. You're not happy. Things aren't right. That's why I'm about self-empowerment and helping you to help yourself. I wish I had me back then. That's kind of sort of the way I feel. I've never said that before, but I wish I had someone like me to illuminate it the way I could hear it and do something about it. Because a lot of people, you can't go from 0 to 60. Like you just said, the journaling part, And writing gratitude. If you're not connected to it and doesn't feel sincere, it feels like you're a fake. So the
Yep.
journaling, back to the journaling, was about, sort of dumping a lot. And I first started with Julia Cameron's morning pages. And then I just moved on to different people. And then I obviously had my own style. And then I shifted it to only writing about the way I wanted my life to be, only focusing on the
Oh, I
gifts
love that.
from the day or the week or whatever popped in, and then only writing my life the way I wanted it to be. So,
Can you give us an example? What do you mean by only writing the, so for instance, like take me through like a typical day. So is it like a morning thing? Is it an evening thing? Are
it's a
you
morning
reflecting?
thing, and it's never the same. I will tell you that. I will change it up. So, I have a note, a 2022 letter to myself from myself that sits on my desk every day, and it's, Diane, today is the first day of the rest
Wow.
of your life. Remember that each day is a new chance to make decisions that will make me proud and successful. I put my, BHAG goals, like the big goals that I want to achieve this year. And then I say, what can I do today that will bring you closer to achieving those? And remember to connect with your goals every day. Be open to the magic and miracles and stay aware, tuned in, grateful that everything you want, you get. It is done. I love you and I'm always here for you. Love, Diane. So I wrote this to myself for the future. I can't believe I read you most of that, but just for an example. So what I will do also, and that sits on my desk, that was a 2022 intentional goal setting for the year type of thing. It's a process.
Yeah, and I
Thanks.
appreciate you sharing that. That
Thank
was
you.
very
And
helpful.
so when I get into my journal on a daily basis, whatever's come up for me in my meditation, a lot of times that'll come in. So I'll just write. Today was an extraordinary day. I got to meet amazing people. I got to do an amazing podcast today, and how many lives did I touch today, and how grateful I am for that. And I love my kids. I'm so grateful they're so healthy and well. And what action step? And I'll put it a question mark, like, all right, Spirit, I'm tapping into you. What's the next action step I need to take today to make my dreams come true? And I promise you, Mo, I get the guidance. I never filter. I never edit. Whatever is the first thing that pops into my head, I do it. It might be text your girlfriend. It might be go on TikTok right now. It might be go on LinkedIn. It might be check the news. Whatever it is, I follow that next step. And then it's, what do I want out of this day? Like what's going to make this feel like a happy, fulfilling, meaningful, successful day for me? And I do that. Sometimes I just write my affirmations. Sometimes I'll, so say if something happened with me and my daughter, say we had a little fight, I'll go to my journal and I'll write, I call it threading thoughts together. I'll just write experiences that we had together, like remember car dancing together when we used to bake cookies, and we used to go see Broadway plays together, and we loved doing jigsaw puzzles together, right? So start threading amazing experiences together, and then I connect with her as that. That's the person in the relationship that we really have. If something negative's going on, that's not really who we are. So anything and everything that will raise my vibration and frequency, and it's different every day. It really is. So that's kind of how I.
And and is your meditation practice part of raising your vibration, or is that more of like a reflection, calming
It's
thing?
totally to become disconnected to this physical being. So it's not with
Okay.
the intent to get answers. Although I get them, I don't go into it with that. If you've, and are you a meditator? And do you know that feeling of disconnect?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing, no better feeling in the world
No, I've only had three profound experiences, but they're all
Yeah.
insane. And they led to a major
Yeah.
shift in my life.
So if that's what's waiting for you in meditation, wouldn't you want to do it more and more? Right? So this is Dr.
Oh
Joe
yeah.
Dispenza. I'll quote him.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
So just the hardest part is sitting there and doing it. And so if you can do it, and I will either do it in silence, I have my own, I have a rainbow breath meditation and a rainbow ribbon of healing thing that I do. I connect to all my energy centers, my chakras, heal my body, heal the energy around me, send love and light out to everyone and everything. You know, I've got my, blessings, all those things that I do, and I connect to the light and I connect to the earth. So stay connected to all the information of infinite intelligence at the same time keeping your feet on the ground, Diane. Like, so that's sort of it. And then through the breath, whether I'm listening to something or not, I don't get up until I have that feeling that of the disconnection. And it might be 5 minutes. It might be, if it's feeling really good, if I have time, I'll just stay with it. 30 minutes, whatever. Because it's the best feeling. And it's the portal. It's truly that eighth chakra, that energy center right above here, the soul star, is your portal to all the information. It's all available. So tapping into that that's how I do it. That's what works for me. So, but it was an evolution. Believe me, it took a long time to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like everything else in life,
Yeah.
it takes practice. And it's like I first started with guided meditations, and then I eventually worked up to just listening to like frequencies and binaural beats, which I still use because I
Yes.
like them. Um, but like lately, throughout my meditations, I've been they change and they vary in time. But lately, the shorter ones, it's like I get out of it and like my brain is reset. Apart from the actual like, oh, I feel good, I feel balanced, what have you. I feel like my brain literally just got like a neural
Yeah.
charge. Like I'm ready to go. Like I feel
Yeah.
refreshed right now, which I never felt before, which is strange. Like this has just started happening like within the last 6 months. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So it's so fascinating that we have all of these tools, let's call them, literally within us. Like we don't need
Right.
any of this stuff. We don't need to write anything down hypothetical. We don't need to buy stuff. We don't need, these fancy pieces of technology. Like we're here. Like we need to learn how to be present with ourselves. So I wanted to ask you, because this was a really interesting topic. You're a big Joe Dispenza fan. So at least from his teachings, he talks about the quantum realm.
Quantum
Is that
field.
correct? And so quantum field, and that's basically the out of body experience, right? So being able to separate your mind from your body, because your everybody thinks that the body is the mind, but really it's the mind that
Right.
that is the body,
Right.
right? Is that am I
Correct.
on the right path? So, God, it's
I
confusing
know.
sometimes. So, so I guess for everybody listening right now that doesn't see the smiles on our faces, um, what would be like a good intro for people just to start? Like, what's a really good first step to meditation? Is there something that you offer that people can start with, or
Totally.
something that you
Thank you
would
for
recommend?
that. So here's what I would
Absolutely.
do. What I do are, I call mantra meditations. They're short. I make private, customized ones for my private clients, but I have some generic ones out there on my YouTube channel at I Have Today with Diane Forster, and then also on Insight Timer. So you could check them out. And they're
Okay.
designed to help you change your vibration and frequency quick. So if you're stressed about money, listen to the money mantra. You'll feel better about money in under 5 minutes. If you're dealing with confidence issues or happiness, check them out because they're brief. That would be a great way to start, even just connecting to yourself. That's why I created them. Mo, I had this client who was suffering. She had so much going on in her life. And this was back in 2017. And she was the primary breadwinner of the house. She was working hard. She was in a difficult marriage. She had Lyme disease. And then she fell and broke her arm in 2 different places. She was going to be out of work for 6 months. Like, oh my
Ouch.
God, was the universe like really trying to knock her down to change her life? And she was so upset and devastated, and I could not get through to her. It was like I was speaking Greek and she was hearing Chinese. Like, we were not on the same vibration. So I'm out for my walk in the morning, and I said, all right, Spirit, give it to me. How can I help her? And they gave me the download to create this thing for her. Well, a week later, she went to the doctor. Her bone was healing so beautifully. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it, because she required no surgeries and she was back at work in a month. And I was like, I might be onto something here. So the point is, the why I do them is because we don't even hear ourselves. We don't even know all the noise that's going on. We don't hear like just the chatter that comes out of our mouth all the time, that we just say these things so flippantly, unconsciously, right? We have to create awareness in the conscious of what's going on in the subconscious. So that's why I recommend that. But if you really want to get to that place where you're detached, listen to Joe Dispenza. He's a great way to do it. He connects you to all the energy centers, and they're all free on YouTube, by the way. That's a great way. And I started listening in the beginning to Louise Hay. She was one of them. Wayne Dyer. He was another one. And then Abraham Hicks. Do you know Abraham Hicks, right? Abraham Hicks, once I started following that work, everything in my life started shifting really, really fast. So that was the order that I did it in. And, but be curious about it. There's so many great meditations online. There's so many that you could just find for free on YouTube. I'm not personally, no offense, a big Calm or Headspace fan. I find them too generic. They don't connect with me. They just don't.
I'm with you. You're
The
talking about
apps,
the apps,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I'm not a
Yeah.
fan either. No disrespect to them. I've tried them. There wasn't my cup of tea. I really like, you said you've got these quick little, like, almost like
Yeah.
bullet to the brain, get into frequency. So if like I'm stressed out and I just all of a sudden got into like the worst mood, enormous stress, I could feel the anxiety just boiling up inside of me. I could just go and listen to one of your quick little mantras and just completely get into frequency and get out of that
Totally.
ugliness that you want to get out of, which is
It's
huge.
meant to
Like, that's
shift your
huge.
energy quick. That's what they're there for. Instantly start to feel better. And like I said, nothing fuels me more than seeing you in inspired action. Like, all right, I got it. I feel better.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just raising the frequency of how you feel. And it doesn't have to take an hour in the lotus position. It can happen in a couple minutes. Really. It's powerful. So to be able to shift that. And that's why that's my wheelhouse. That's kind of my area that I focused on, because I just saw the need for it. So you're in the car. My son, I remember he was in college, and he would call me and he'd be on the bus on his way to campus and he'd go, Mom, I got a big test. I need a boost of confidence. I'm not feeling good about it. Can you do a 1-minute mantra meditation for me? I'm like, yeah. So,
Over the phone,
I
right?
would record it quick and send it over to him.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we all need that boost.
That's
Yeah.
good. We do, because as a society, America, especially men, I've found this especially married men, career-driven business owners, entrepreneurs are kind of like fit the description, where they start sedating. They become
Complacent.
They become so overwhelmed and complacent, and either with booze, pills, porn, you name it. I've seen it all, and it's tragic.
Yeah, the
you
number
know?
one age group for suicides is adults between the ages of 45 and 64. People think it's teens. It's not.
It's not.
It's
Yeah.
this evolution that happens to us, in which I won't go into the whole thing, but this time of life for men and women in this age group is a massive transition and change again. And pain from the
Mm.
past in those years that was never dealt with, when you are going through so much change. I mean, the hormone changes and the things that happen to us in the teen years, right?
Oh yeah.
Unresolved
Yeah.
pain resurfaces again, and it's worse. It's worse. This is why we need to be, or this is why I do what I do, out there helping you realize, no, 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 you can make your life be anything you want it to be. You're not too old. You're none of those things. You're actually being called to step up to figure out why you're here, what your purpose is. And that's another reason why there's so much unrest, because it seems like, the house is burning down. Everything's in my life's falling apart. What's going on here? It's your sign that you're being called to figure that next thing. And it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable because we assume, God, by this time in my life, I thought I'd be further along. By this time in my life, I thought that, I'd have this much money, right? And so
Yeah.
many of us, as you know, no, this is like a birth, a new awakening right now. So,
I wish I knew that when I went
yeah,
through that, because I felt like it would have made that transition so much easier. So I'm hoping that this, um, maybe somebody is going through it right now, and what you just said truly resonates with them, and they're able to identify it and see it for what it is, instead of trying to, like you said, have that negative self-talk and go against the grain, and like, because God, it sucks. Like, man, I shouldn't be where I'm at right now. Like, I was more successful then, and I did this, and I have so many more things. I should have accomplished so much more in my life. And it's one thing after another. And then then you're like in this downward spiral of negativity. And you're like, dude,
right,
stop talking.
right.
Like,
So
snap
again,
out of it.
go back and figure out the facets of the diamond you are. Go there. Go there. Do that exercise. That's your unique ability. And seek
Yeah.
counsel. We are here doing this work. You're doing it. I'm doing it. There's so many resources there. Don't hide like I did. Don't pretend it's all good. You're not alone. And when you speak up and reach out, you'll see that. You'll also feel so supported, knowing that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And there's so
Yeah.
many wonderful stories of transformation, of people just like you who are out there listening to this, who are feeling stuck, feeling like a loser or worthless or, ashamed or whatever it is, guilty. There's nothing wrong with you. Again, wisdom is the thing that takes time, and the lessons show up in the most unexpected way, good and bad. So it's just part of the journey. And they're all growth opportunities. There are no mistakes. There are no mistakes. Everything is a lesson along the way and an opportunity to learn, grow, and expand. That's my belief. So that's what I want to leave the audience with. Nothing wrong with you.
That's so great. I so appreciate your time. Where can people find you? And if anybody's struggling, they want to work with you, or they just, I don't know, they want to have your guidance. What's the best place for them to communicate that with
what
you?
I would say, if you want to do that, go to my website, DianeForster.com, and go to my coaching. Yes.
Diane Forster.
DianeForster.com.
Okay.
And then go to my coaching page and book a desired life assessment with me. It'll be the best investment in time and money you ever make. It's such a worthwhile process because we will figure it all out. You'll have a blueprint for your life. You'll have that inspired action. You'll know where to go. And that's my greatest advice for them. And of course, I'm on social media everywhere, Diane Forster Official. And if you want to follow my show, search I Have Today with Diane Forster, and you can find everywhere the TV show is available. So
wonderful. That's beautiful. I'll make sure that I list all those in the description. Thank you so much for your time and for your advice and your counsel. This has been, I learned so much, and I feel refreshed just having this conversation with you. I'm like, let's go. I got a lot to do.
It's great. I love it.
So
Thank you so much for having me, Mo.
Yeah, absolutely.